This award meant a lot to me for multiple reasons. Being former military and a combat veteran, I've always loved to serve. And my career just transitioned into another type of service with social work. So it ties in the military service and then my current, field and current job as a social worker, but then also coming from the USC College of Social Work really means a lot to me. Ever since I've got in the field of social work and kind of got my feet on the ground and got a little experience, I've always tried to give back through time. I'm really proud to be an ongoing field supervisor for interns. And so just kind of seeing, getting that affirmation back from the place where I graduated meant a lot as well. That's a very long answer, and I have people ask me that question all the time. And it really started with my mom. She raised me to be my brother's keeper, to when I see something that is, a place of inequity, of somebody who needs something to help out. If I see somebody without a shirt, to give them my shirt. If I see somebody who was hungry, to, give them some food. So I was raised with a servant's heart. Even in school, I was always on student government and things like that. And then through my faith, I was involved with leadership and service in the church. And then 9/11 happened and I enlisted in the military. So I took my service onto the battlefield. And after I got home from 9/11, I felt really lost and I didn't know where to put that. And there was a couple of years where I was really in a dark place. And then one day I ran into an old school counselor. We called them guidance counselors back then, Barbara Seaburn. And I saw her and she was asking me what I was doing with my life now. And I told her, and I was doing some sales work and nothing really meaningful. And just like an old school mom would do, she gave me a swift kick in the rear and told me about the career of social work. And I didn't know what that was at the time, but because I honored her so much and valued her so much, I went and checked out a program at Southern Wesleyan University in the upstate that was designed for adult learners. You could go to school at night, and it was actually for human services. And I took that degree, went straight into it, did 2 years and knocked it out. But through that process of completing an undergraduate degree, I did some work and I looked at, LPC degree, I looked at LMSW, I looked at and marriage and family counseling. And kind of looking at all of these different ways to continue into graduate school, I found that I was more drawn to social work because of the person in the environment. Way of looking at the field. I've always felt like that we are more than just what's going on in our head, that we are what's going on. It does include what's going on around us, how we were raised, what we're currently living in right now, our past traumas, all these kinds of things, our family history. And I love that social work encompasses all of that. And I also loved that when I looked at the jobs that you could get with social work, they were all over the place. And I've seen that even in my own career. I've got to work with so many different kinds of agencies and populations and organizations. I've just loved the variety that comes along with it too. I currently work with Prisma Health during the day, and I've worked with a lot of different organizations. I own my own consulting firm for mental health. And in every organization that I've worked with, there have been social workers. And what I love that we bring to the table is, I think, it's a different mindset. I think we do take the time to pause and look at an issue that, an individual maybe, or a family might be dealing with. And we look at it from a lot of different angles that some other disciplines may not always consider, and, vice versa. But I love the fact that we can sit with someone and really hold space. I think Father Greg Boyle calls it the ministry of presence. And most social workers that I know, I don't know if we're that way and that's what brings us to social work, or social work school turns us into this way. But I feel like we really do a great job of holding space for someone to tell their whole story, to be seen, to be heard. And to be validated. And from that, we can I almost see it sometimes as the way that we look at things is like starting with a blank slate and then kind of putting a puzzle together. And with every piece of that story, every piece of information, every part of a heart that someone opens up and shares to you, you get another piece of that puzzle. And I just love the fact that we bring that to the table. And I think it always adds such a richness and a vibrancy to any kind of treatment team or approach to serving our community. Weirdly enough, I think the first question, and we talk about this a lot, but we don't always practice it as social workers, is At the beginning of your career, right now, think about like what are your boundaries. We help clients with that a lot, but I had some great mentors here at the University of South Carolina in the College of Social Work. Dr. Lynn McMillan, Marta Culverhall, I can go on and on and on, and some other ones from other schools that taught me early on the value of setting boundaries around my own self-care. And it has protected me from burnout, from compassion fatigue, from a lot of things that turn people, their pure hearts into a jaded heart. And I've seen that a lot of times. So one is find out where your lines are, where your boundaries, set them and then hold them. And then two, I would say dedicate yourself to being a lifelong learner. When you get out into the field, we all know that we have to renew our licenses from time to time. We have to have a certain amount of CEUs. And you can be one of two kinds of practitioners. You can be somebody who, a week before our renewal comes up, you hop online and pay $49 to take this simple little test and get all your CEUs, and you never sharpen your axe. Or you can do what I think is actually best practice and ethical care and learn, like find something that you're passionate about and dive into it. For me, it was trauma and neuroscience early in my career, and I still love learning about that. Right now, I'm trying to learn more about experiential work and somatic work and arts therapy. But, the world is ever changing, generations are changing, and every day, hopefully, we're going to learn something more about the brain, the makeup, and the best way that we can treat those that we serve. And I think it's incumbent upon us to do our best to learn, no matter what's offered to you in your job or your workplace. Do something every day to learn new about what's going on in our profession.